evening, one and all. Welcome to our podcast, The Absolute Truth. My name's Greg. I'm here with Christina. Once again, we're excited to get a chance to visit and share with you. We're going to jump right into our first segment. Did you know? Christina?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to start with my first Did You Know? Biden's tax could give IRS more access to your bank account. The IRS push for more information about taxpayers would kill community banks, says the Florida Bankers Association CEO. Under the proposal, banks and other financial institutions would be required to annually report customers' account inflows and outflows of $600 or more to the IRS. The White House has estimated the policy, which would apply to bank, loan, and investment accounts, could generate about $463 billion in additional revenue over the next decade. In a memo to congressional Democrats, the administration defended the plan, saying it requires bank and financial institutions to provide a little bit of high-level information to the IRS on account flows in order to give the agency more information about wealthy Americans' earnings from the investments and business activities. It's called communism. Okay, when they want to sit and track what money you have coming in and out of your account, it is not the government's business. And again, that is the next step into communism. Greg?
Okay, my first Did You Know is from Just the News. Teacher takes down American flag in the classroom, says it represents violence and menace and intolerance. Groby removed the American flag as a protest against her school district's ban of political imagery in classrooms, which includes the LGBT and Black Lives Matter symbols. Groby also said the American flag was the most political symbol there is. Quote, she says, "I know my kids, and I know what's best for them and what to do to help them feel comfortable. I took the American flag down in my classroom because that's the most political symbol there is. When I see Trevor DeHart sitting there at those board meetings with that giant American flag behind him, it's terrifying."
Gosh, that's
What a joke. That symbol doesn't stand for freedom, justice, or equality anymore. It stands for violence and menace and intolerance, and I will not fly that in my room, Groby said, according to the Newburgh Graphic. Folks, think about that. These are the type of people that are the ones that are going to be teaching our kids and grandkids. Is that truly the best place for them? We have to make sure we are part of the movement to take down these current board members and replace them with people who will truly represent we the people. Proper vetting of the folks that are looking to run for that, and get the people we know and support them to become part of the school board so we can make sure our kids are taken care of the way that we know they need to be. Christina?
If she can't teach in a classroom with a flag, then she apparently shouldn't be teaching, and maybe she shouldn't even be living in America. How about go to a country where you can put up a flag that you're proud of if you're not proud of our flag?
Exactly. How about that?
My next Did You Know? After backlash, Pitt hires law firm to review experiments on aborted fetal tissue. Following widespread backlash, the University of Pittsburgh tapped a law firm to review its experimental procedures on aborted babies. Last month, documents obtained by the Center for Medical Progress showed that the university sought $3 million in 2015 from the National Institutes of Health to become a distribution hub for preborn baby parts, procured for abortion facilities in Pittsburgh for use in medical research. Ridiculous. They're taking these baby fetal tissues and they're using it for experiments. Fetal tissue, basically, AKA babies that were killed.
Yep.
So my next Did You Know? I love this, and I love to see communities coming together, and I want to see more of it, because if we don't start coming together as communities, going to these board meetings and different things to fight these mandates and all this ridiculous stuff that's going on in this country, we're not going to win the battle. But when communities fight together and they band together, there's so much strength in numbers, and this is proof of that. Parents band together to force the resignation of a school superintendent who pushed for teaching critical race theory. So when the parents go in there, not 10 and 20, but hundreds go in and they demand things, and they have that right as taxpayers and they have that right as parents, then actions will take place and people will get removed from office. If not from stepping down, then they'll have to resign. Greg?
Okay. Law professor accuses the university of violating the FTC rules with the mask mandate. Quote, "You're promoting the idea that the mask can prevent or treat a disease, which is an illegal, deceptive practice," David Clements tells New Mexico State. A business law professor who has been put on paid leave for refusing to wear a mask in class is defending his actions with an unexpected authority, the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. He says, quote, "By requiring employees to wear a mask, you are promoting the idea that the mask can prevent or treat a disease, which is an illegal, deceptive practice," end quote. David Clements, who teaches consumer law at New Mexico State University, told Provost Carol Parker in a letter back in September the 13th. His refusal to wear a mask prevented him from attending his own award ceremony for teaching excellence at the business school. Go figure that, right? "I'm being forced to consume or use a device against my will, and it's not part of science," Clements said in a phone interview. Clements' argument against the mask mandate cites published medical research on the general inefficiency of masks at preventing respiratory infections, particularly cloth masks, which were less effective than the maskless control arm in the British Medical Journal study in 2015. He noted that Anthony Fauci co-authored a 2008 Journal of Infectious Diseases paper that concluded, quote, "The vast majority of influenza deaths in the 1918-1919 pandemic resulted from secondary bacterial pneumonia," end quote. Masks are well understood traps for bacteria, 50 times larger than viruses, and university police policy increases the risk of the New Mexico State University faculty becoming infected and having a far worse outcome, he said. Because the FDA's April 2020 emergency use authorization for face masks explicitly said they may not be labeled to imply that they are, quote, "intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protected or related, or for use such as infection prevention or reduction," end quote, the university is violating the FTC rules. Quote, "It is unlawful to advertise that a product or service can prevent disease unless you possess competent and reliable scientific evidence substantiating that the claims are true," he wrote, citing that FTC Act. Christina?
My next did you know is that there was a Marine that was in Afghanistan at the airports protecting the American people and protecting people from the Taliban. And he is currently under investigation for attending a Trump rally. Sounds familiar, sort of like that Lieutenant Scheller, I believe is his name. He was put in the brig for standing up and calling out the failed leadership in the military for the failed withdrawal in Afghanistan, which resulted in 13 service members killed and a U.S. drone strike that killed 7 kids and individuals who were helping us. So basically, you can't go to a Trump rally, and you cannot ask any questions, or you cannot call out anybody for failed leadership, or else you end up going to jail. So we need to all fight to get this lieutenant freed, because this is absurd. Greg?
Leading right into talking more about Afghan, it says here, Afghan refugees face federal charges after trying to rape a child, strangle a woman in Wisconsin. This is in the Daily Wire. 2 Afghan refugees who were brought into the United States following the Democrat, they call him President, Joe Biden's disastrous pullout from the country are facing federal charges related to allegedly trying to rape a minor and suffocate a woman. Let me try this name. Barula Nori, 20, is charged with attempting to engage in a sexual act with a minor using force against that person, and with 3 counts of engaging in a sexual act with a minor, with 1 count alleging the use of force. Mohammed Haroon Ahmad, 32, is charged with assaulting his spouse by strangling and suffocating her. The statement continued. The indictment alleges that the assault occurred September 7th, 2021. The Biden administration has repeatedly claimed that they're vetting the Afghan refugees. That doesn't sound like that to me. Christina?
Wow. So as we all have heard, the Border Patrol's in trouble. God forbid they do their job. The Border Patrol agents are to be fired for also refusing the COVID jab as illegals pour in without the vaccine mandate. Border Patrol agents who've devoted their careers to protecting the U.S. now face termination if they refuse to get the COVID jab by November, even as the Biden administration refuses to mandate the jab for those entering the U.S. illegally. The Biden administration will allow COVID-positive illegal aliens to surge across the border, but he will terminate this dedicated law enforcement officers who do not comply with the presidential mandate. Or should we say a Nazi administration mandate. The Biden border crisis continues to worsen as illegal aliens stream across the southwest border as a result of Biden's and your radical immigration policies. That's what Jim Jordan wrote. As the brave men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol work tirelessly to respond to the administration's manufactured border crisis, DHS is threatening to terminate a significant number of agents who refuse to comply. On top of the dangerous nature of their jobs, they argue, the agents' jobs are made even harder when senior officials, including Kamala Harris, spread false accusations of cruelty that has occurred in the recent days to mounted officers in Del Rio while ignoring reports of attacks against Border Patrol personnel. So they're allowed to attack them. That's fine, our Border Patrol, but they are not allowed to, as they are leading their horses, and they have the, I don't know what you call those things that they control the horses with, the reins. Yeah. They're, if it hits one of them accidentally, then that's considered, I think Kamala Harris considered that inhumane treatment. She's nuts.
The inhumane comes from the people that look to be in charge of our country that is totally destroying it right now.
Exactly. Furthermore, more than 1.2 million illegals have been apprehended coming across the southern border, and none have been subject to a vaccine mandate. Several 100,000 more have evaded capture. So this is a major problem that we all know that's taking place. And I guess our so-called president cares more about other countries and other citizens from other countries than he does his own.
Part of the master plan, right? With this globalist approach of changing America's DNA forever. That's how I see it.
Yes.
All right. Next, did you know I have here? It says, this is according to the Daily Wire. Okay. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Friday scored a legal win in his fight to ban mask mandates for children in schools across the state, and instead allowing parents to decide what's best for their kids. Go figure that. After the DeSantis administration filed an emergency motion against an appeals court to reinstate a stay on his order to ban the mandates, the First District Court of Appeal in Tallahassee granted the stay Friday. Quote, First District Court of Appeals just granted the state of Florida's request to reinstate the stay, meaning the rule requiring all Florida school districts to protect parents' rights to make choices about masking kids is back in effect, a spokesman for Governor DeSantis states. Christina?
So my next did you know, this really irritates me. School boards are demanding that Biden deploy federal law enforcement to meetings. They claim they are under domestic terrorism threat.
Joke.
According to NPR, the group, the National School Board Association, claims that school board meetings now require the presence of justice, education, and homeland security departments, as well as the FBI. These parents are just dangerous. They have more protection in our school board meetings than they do at the borders. Is that not ridiculous?
Yes.
They are citing a number of incidences, including one in Loudoun County, Virginia, where school board meetings have devolved into arguments requiring law enforcement involvement. These heinous actions, the NSBA said, could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism and hate crimes. Although they specifically reference contentious meetings, the letter also appears to lump more peaceful protest against mask and critical race theory into the domestic terrorism category. NSBA believes immediate assistance is required to protect our students, school board, and educators who are susceptible to acts of violence affecting interstate commerce because of threats to their districts, families, and personal safety, the group wrote. The Loudoun County incident, though involved an arrest after the meeting, which involved a loud but largely peaceful demonstration, was declared an unlawful assembly by the board itself. Listen, I've been to these board meetings, and I can assure you, yes, parents are angry, rightfully so. However, they are a far cry from a domestic terrorist. I've seen all of them, even the ones on TV. I probably saw this one that they're speaking of. It's absolutely absurd. They're angry because parents are actually standing up against them and fighting for their kids. Now, they might get away with some things, but when you start getting in and trying to parent the children of these parents, that's when Mama and Papa Bear starts coming out and saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't think so. And these kids being masked all day is dangerous. According to a lot of parents that have done their research, they don't want their kids sitting in a mask all day. It's not healthy. And then if we allow this, the next thing they're going to be wanting to do is mandate vaccines, which are unnecessary. Both are unnecessary. So the parents are fighting back, and they need to, and they're not domestic terrorists. This is laughable, seriously. Totally laughable.
I think, Christina, that this fraudulent government, this is their way of trying to control what's happening again and get people afraid for standing up for their rights. And that's just a common theme that this government of ours, that totally corrupt, is trying to push on us. And we, the people, have to go along with that one song, more, 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 right? We have to pile on. We need hundreds of people to show up to these board meetings. I've been at these board meetings along with Christina and some different ones too, and I see nothing of the sort. In fact, maybe just the opposite. In fact, the one that we were at over in Lakeview, do you remember that one, Christina, where I think, wasn't it Loychik was at?
Yes.
2 of them flipped him off.
Yes.
These are school board members flipping an elected official off. Are those the type of people you want making decisions on behalf of your kids and grandkids? So more, more, more.
Well, it's actually getting to the place where the government, health department, and the school boards think that what they say goes. And if the parents even ask questions at these board meetings, the board members literally ignore them and do not respond. That is
That
rude.
just happened to me in Niles. They gave me the bell, ding, 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 and they never answered my questions.
They don't answer questions because they don't have answers, because the majority of them, they listen to the CDC that changes daily. They don't have accurate information, and they don't do their proper research. If you watch mainstream media, you're not getting the facts. Simple as that. They're not journalists anymore. They're puppets. They're told what to say, what to report, and that's just how it works today. So yeah, it's kind of a good thing though, because this is like woke up people to finally get involved in their schools, to see that what's going on behind the closed doors at the school is absolutely insane.
No mas, no more.
Nope.
All right, this is my last. Did you know thousands of people took to the streets in the Netherlands and Turkey over the past weekend to rally against COVID-19 mandates, with Dutch organizers claiming that as many as 150,000 people took to the streets in these smaller countries. Over the weekend, thousands of people demonstrated in Turkey against government-mandated COVID-19 restrictions, including vaccines, tests, and masking. Quote, "This pandemic is just going on with even more restrictions on our freedoms, and there's no end to it," said Erdem Boz, 40, a software developer. Masks, vaccines, PCR tests might all become mandatory. We're here to voice our discontent with this. On Monday, the Turkish government began requiring proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test for all users of intercity planes, buses, and trains, as well as for those attending large events such as concerts or theater performances. Quote, "We're all against these mandates," said Einar Baruch Bilan with the pandemic resistance movement. Quote, "I think that the vaccines aren't complete, and that's in an experimental liquid." Demonstrators marched during a protest against COVID-19 vaccine passports on De Villers Avenue in Paris on September 11th of this year. The sign reads, "Neither passport nor health pass." Meanwhile, in France, more demonstrations occurred across the country on Saturday, including in Paris, against COVID-19 vaccine passports. And then I have here the French Interior Ministry said that about 120,000 partook in the demonstrations. So, you know, when I see thousands and thousands of people showing up in the streets, protesting, all of our rights that we have through our Constitution being taken away and trampled on, we need that here in America, folks. We need to start local and expand throughout. And we're going to talk a little bit more of that as we get into our hot topic discussion. Christina?
It looks like we Americans can take some lessons from these other countries. Also, I don't know, did you mention Australia? I didn't hear Australia in there.
I didn't know.
Well, Australia, I just saw a video where they took to the streets by the millions because they're in complete lockdown over there, and they finally had enough. They hit the streets, and from my understanding, I watched the video, I read the caption, I did not confirm this, but this is what I saw, so you can confirm it. I'm just telling you what I read and saw, but they said that they literally took over the police and everything. They're fed up, and maybe it's going to take us being in a complete lockdown before Americans actually feel enough pain to say enough is enough and start fighting back like they fight back. So then my next did you know is last week a judge denied a request from the union to put a hold on Democratic Governor Charlie Baker's vaccine mandate for troopers. So we got the Border Patrol, we got the troopers. Also, the military, they're attacking them all. They're trying to get them all mandating this shot. Dozens of Massachusetts state troopers have submitted their resignation papers as a result of the state COVID-19 mandate, a union official says. The state is requiring all executive department employees to show proof of vaccination by October 17th or risk losing their jobs. Roughly 20% of police employees are not vaccinated, said an attorney for the union, the State Police Associations of Massachusetts. Last week, a judge denied a request from the union to put a hold on Democratic Governor Charlie Baker's vaccine mandate for troopers. The union said following the judge's decision that troopers are asking that a related illness be treated as a line of duty injury, as other agencies have done for their workers, and have alternatives to the vaccine, including mask wearing and mandatory testing. Think about this. We are doing all of this. Like I read these things and then I think about how ridiculous it is when you have a 99% chance of recovering from this and we're going to these kind of extremes. It doesn't logically make sense. I wish people could start trying to think logically again, because I feel like a lot of logic has been lost through the last almost 2 years now in this society. Common sense has went bye-bye and logical thinking has gone bye-bye, and it's time to bring it back. And it's going to take Americans that have the ability to think for themselves to go out there and tell the others and pray that they open their eyes from the deception that they are under. It's like half of America is under a spell right now, and we got to snap them out of it.
Yep.
The last one that I have is Union President Panic DeSantis will trigger flight to private school social media. On Thursday, they were saying that this isn't just about the mask or Governor DeSantis' political aspirations. It's about the complete destabilization of public education so that parents will choose private schools. This May, in a speech that Michigan's deeply conservative Hillsdale College, Florida Education Commissioner Richard sketched out a few principles for Republicans to follow. Conservatives, he said, should no longer consider the primary purpose of school to be training students for employment. Instead, they should see it as instilling moral values. The article continued that DeSantis appears to be piloting a new education ideology for Republicans, trading in the decades-old, substantially bipartisan education reform agenda, a formula that was born in Florida. He is mustering a naked attack on the very existence of public schools, and I applaud him for that, because it's about time that we do have an attack on the public schools, because the public schools, if you don't know it by now, let me inform you, they are indoctrinating our kids. You saw Black Lives Matters last summer, destroying things, looting, burning cop cars on fire, disrespecting the police. That is the generation that was under the Obama administration that were taught to hate America and to not have patriotism. And they were learning at that point, and they're still doing it, and it's getting worse, to hate America. We used to be taught to love and admire America, and it was the land of the brave and the free, and it's being totally misconstrued today, and they're being lied to. So my kids are all grown, and if they were not, I can promise you they'd be ripped out of school so fast. I would not even give them a chance to try to indoctrinate my kids and turn them against their parents. They're undermining the parents, and they're also trying to get them to hate their country. Greg?
I think we should follow suit with what DeSantis is trying to do in every state. And I think some of the ideas we have, we'll discuss as we go forward with additional podcasts. But one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is publicschoolexit.com. Use that website and research it. It has a lot of material about getting your kids out of the public school system right now. Now, I don't want you to forget about trying to fix the public school systems. That battle we're still going to wage, right? But until that battle is having progress, we might not want our kids in there, and that might be part of the way that we're able to get them fixed if they don't have students showing up, right? And then also there's the ability to start our own schools and private schools to offer the proper education that really should be given to our kids and grandkids as we go forward. Okay, so now we're going to jump into our next segment, and we call that our hot topic discussion. And we're calling this, our theme is Lay It on the Line. And, we see what's happening right now in America with this jab and trying to mandate everybody get it, and, corporations and unions and just different organizations are trying to mandate this. I heard that over in California, their governor is saying that now kids going to just grade school and high school are going to have to get the vaccine. So, when we think about that, we have people right now that are standing up to it. There's businesses that were going to be doing that, and now they're changing their tune. They're not going to be mandating it anymore because they'll lose too many employees.
Strength in numbers, people.
Strength in numbers. And then you look at some of the nurses over in New York. They had that deadline coming up where they're all going to get fired. Over 83,000 people is what I recollect. Nurses are going to... Does that tell you something? 83,000 nurses. Why would they not want to get the jab? These are the people that are caring for the people who are sick. And they see the people coming in there that are sick because of the jab. So that should tell us, when Christina refers to common sense, think about that. That's totally common sense. If you have people that are supposed to be caring for us to help us get better, and they're the ones that are saying, hey, you're going to have to fire me because I'm not getting the jab myself, that should tell people a lot of whether they should be thinking about getting that jab or not. So we figured we're going to call it Lay It on the Line. But there's so many things coming at America right now. Would you agree with that? I mean, there's so many things. And I think a lot of it has to do with a diversion. How do we fix all of it all at one time? It's going to be very difficult, like next to impossible, but is it? See, our belief is that we fixed the number one thing is the election. All of us know that it was fraudulent. We know the corruption is everywhere. That's what has to be focused on. So it's our belief that we need to get that fixed. We're going to share with you a little bit of the research we've done. We're going to give you a flavor for it. There's just not enough time to give you everything. Christina's going to give you kind of a summary of the things that we've come across. I'm going to give you a couple little details that we got into, and then we have kind of a game plan that we feel that we can take and use to help be part of a movement to fix it and get it corrected. When I say fix it, right? Not fix it like they did to cheat, but to correct it. So, Christina, would you get into that summary for us?
Yeah, before I get into that, I just want to say something real quick. One thing is a guarantee. If we do nothing, then we're going to receive nothing. We have not failed, and we will not fail. The only way we're going to fail is when we stop trying and we stop fighting. And I don't know about the listeners out there. I don't have any intention of fighting. Yes, I get weary. Yes, I feel overwhelmed at times.
You don't have any intention of fighting?
I don't have any intention of not fighting.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was like, whoa.
I will always fight. As long as I have breath in me, I will be fighting for the freedoms for this country, for my kids, my grandkids, future generations. But we have to do something. So even if you're overwhelmed, just realize if we all do it, work together, we can accomplish great things. But some of the things that I'd like to go over is the things that happened with the elections that were fraudulent. For example, number 1, vote count manipulation, cyber attacks, changing votes, scorecard, hammer, Dominion. Number 2, postal workers backdating. 3, poll observers thrown out. 4, black markers in Arizona. 5, altered ballots by poll workers. 6, polls closed in middle of night. When does that ever happen? Yeah. Number 7, non-residents voting. Number 8, votes made by the dead. Our great-great-great-grandparents probably voted in this election. Number 9, harvest ballots, which are fake ballots. Number 10, ballots processed, no poll watchers. Number 11, more voters than registered voters in multiple counties. Number 12, media and big tech cover up lies and donations. Number 13, multiple statistical farces. 14, ballots with no down ballot. 15, ballots with no signatures. 16, ballots with no signature check. 17, more mailed and ballot counted than sent out. Okay, that's 17, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Greg?
Okay, just some details real quick. Nevada. That gives you 6 electoral votes. The margin of so-called victory for Biden was only 33,596. And did you know that there was a total of 4,000 illegal aliens that voted in Nevada? Mailed in or absentee ballots from voters who were known to vote in other states was 15,000. Clark County used Agilis signature verification. They set it at 1/2 the image quality than suggested by the manufacturer. Right? So a bunch of signatures were used that were ultimately not accurate. And there was only 130,000 of those. Wow. Dead people who voted, 1,506. Non-Nevadans who voted in Nevada, 19,218.
Wow.
And voters who double voted, 42,284. And what was the margin of so-called victory? 33,596. Pennsylvania, 20 electoral votes. What was the margin of so-called victory? 80,555. Mailed-in votes counted without a Republican observer. There was only 682,777 that were not observed by Republican. Right? That right there is fraud. Fake ballots driven from New York to PA, 100,000. Ballots that were accepted up to 3 days after the election day, 10,000. Poll workers sorted ballots with various errors into bins. Poll workers then refilled out those ballots. They refilled them out so that they can be read by the tabulation machines, 4,500. How about Arizona? Oh boy, we've heard a lot about Arizona, haven't we? 11 electoral votes. The margin of so-called victory was only 10,457. Check this out. Mailed-in ballots requiring adjudication. 12% of over 2,470,000, which equals 296,000. Once it goes into the adjudication part, then basically whoever controls the system can pretty much choose who they vote for. Did you know that? Illegal aliens that voted in Arizona, 36,400. Completed mailed-in ballots received the day before the ballots were mailed out. Is that crazy?
Wow.
22,903. Voters registered to a vacant lot, 2,000. Voters registered in Maricopa County after the registration deadline, 150,000. Maricopa County electronic adjudication ballots with no Republican observer present, over 103,000. Now, we've heard about this forensic audit done. What have they found out? Remember, this is in one county. Arizona has 15 counties. This is just in one county. What was the margin of victory? So-called victory, right? 10,457. This is what they found out from that audit. Thousands of duplicate ballots without serial numbers in the ballot boxes. Maricopa was supposed to use vote secure paper that should not bleed through. The ballots show there was bleed through, which could cancel the ballots. 11,326 votes from voters who were not on the voter rolls on November 7th. Over 74,000 votes, more mail-in ballots were received and counted than were mailed out. So they got more ballots in that were counted that they even mailed out. How many? 74,000. The state will not turn over the subpoenaed routers used on these machines. Does that sound like something? We're going to subpoena you for evidence, and then we're just not going to give it to you. And that's okay? No, that's not okay. People, we have to stand up. Think about what happened with Clinton, right? We subpoena the evidence of her
Emails.
Her emails, right? And the servers. And what does she do? She destroys them. The laptops and everything. She destroyed them all. If anything like that was done by some of us, we'd all be in jail, right? Check this out. 250,000, over 263,000 votes, suspiciously were corrupted ballot images. Evidence that the EMS was connected to the internet and the deletion of general election results database and thousands of securing log files the day before the audit make a compelling case for the cover-up. Is that unbelievable? They deleted the data before the actual full forensic audit. To me, right there, that means you're guilty. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
All right, Wisconsin. The margin of so-called victory. This is 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin. The margin of so-called victory was 20,608. There was a surge of indefinitely confined voters in 2020, prisoners. How many were allowed to vote when they shouldn't have been? 130,000. The United States Postal Service backdated ballots in Wisconsin. How many? 100,000. Mailed-in ballots entering the tabulation process under guise of absentee ballots in clear violation of the law, 170,000. With only 20,608, right, margin of so-called victory. This gives you a flavor, folks. This doesn't include all the information we have on Georgia, which was horrible, probably worse than all of these. Colorado and North Carolina. Also, go to defendingtherepublic.org. All right, Sidney Powell, person of credibility, fighting for our country. And watch the video that they have of a testimony that our elections have been rigged back since the year 2000 using algorithms and computers. Again, defendingtherepublic.org. Okay, watch that video. A couple other things I wanted to mention. Registration database. All right, that gives you the information of the state of all the folks that are registered. Dr. Frank, for those of you who know, he's a PhD physicist, and he had 1,600 homes where they went knocked on doors. And they wanted to find out if these were accurate matches of the people who voted versus the people who said they voted, right? And they went to 1,600 homes, and they found out that 32% of those homes they went to were phantom votes, meaning the people didn't even exist. And that's just in one area, folks. Okay, so Hamilton County, they looked up the amount of people that were registered to vote versus how many people by age category, and 95% overall were registered to vote, which is unheard of. Most of the time, you don't have 95% of all the people that live in that area of Hamilton County in that age category registered to vote. It's usually more like 70%, not 95%. So that right there tells you, right, probably harvested votes. Let me take it a step further. Then they looked at the ballots, and again, in some of the age categories, there were more ballots cast than were registered to vote. That slam dunk is proof that they were fake ballots. And that was not just in Hamilton County, that was in multiple counties in Ohio. But what do we hear by a lot of the different elected officials in Ohio? Oh, the election was fair. There was a little bit, we'll clean that up, but overall it was fair and honest. We had one of the best clean elections than we've ever had in Ohio. Bull. Don't take what they're feeding you, folks. That's a bunch of bull. How about in Colorado? Check this out. There's 64 counties in Colorado, and at least 20 of them have more people registered to vote than the population in that county. So that just gives you a little flavor of the corruption. We can go on and on about that, but the bottom line is we got to get it fixed.
And the bottom line is everybody, every American, every other country, everybody knows that Trump won. And everybody knows that there was excessive cheating like we've never seen in history. And we also know that Trump won got more votes than any president ever did before. Yep. That's why they had to stop the voting and everything, because they had already cheated, but they didn't even begin to imagine what a huge margin that he was going to win by. So when they realized just the cheating in the computers wasn't quite enough, that's when things started shutting down. They started kicking out poll workers.
Yep. All right, so how do we fix it? Number one, I think there's power in
numbers.
And there's power in
God.
There we go. Prayer, right? So, Christina, what would you just give us a sample of a good prayer to say throughout the day as we pray? What would be a good prayer to say about specific to our elections?
I just think that it's always good to pray throughout the day, and I pray for this country multiple times and every night and throughout the day that God would just protect us and that he would open up the eyes of the deceived, and that he would, in his power, let things just flip. Let the election audit take place to where the election in Arizona gets flipped and it starts a domino effect, and we start seeing every single county flipped, because we have to get this taken care of. Everybody's always, Trump 2024. I know I sound like a broken record, but I can't help it. We are not going to have a 2022, a 2024 until this is fixed. Look what just happened in California.
Corrected, right?
Yes. In California, I don't believe that, what's it, Newsom? Is that who's it?
Yep.
I don't believe that the recall, I think he should have been recalled. I think that was fixed. I really do. And so we're not going to see change until that happens. But see, here's the thing that we forget, and I also forget as Christians. God can change in an instant what we can try to work our tails off trying to change. Not saying that we just sit back complacent and don't go out and do what we can do, but God at any instant, he can change everything. And I believe that he will. And we see all through the Bible where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they got thrown in a fire, and guess what? God was in the midst of them, and they came out fine. He parted the Red Sea for Moses and the Israelites. I mean, he can do anything, and I believe that we have not even begun to see the power that he's going to reveal to the Americans. But I think he is waiting for one very important thing, and I think that is for people to wake up and turn back to him, because we turned our back as Americans on God, and we as Christians, shame on us, and I include myself in that, because we lay asleep in our own little cushy little happy lives, and we were not fighting against all the evil and the perversion and the abortions and all the things that were taking place. We were just kind of ignoring it. And it is like, I understand it's easier sometimes to pretend like things aren't happening because it's a lot to deal with everything that's going on in this country. It gets overwhelming, but ignoring it is not going to make it go away. So I don't know. I would just say pray every day and just ask for God to protect this country and bring the people back to him. And I think when we turn from our wicked, evil ways, that's when God's light's going to shine down and we're going to see a big change.
Awesome. Okay. So first and foremost, we pray. Then we look for wisdom, right, through our prayer that God might lead us as his soldiers to do what needs to be done down here on earth. And I think one of the things that would be good for us to do is we have to lay it on the line and we have to mandate full forensic audit for the state of Ohio. All states should have a full forensic audit, all right? You want to think, how do we go ahead and mandate that? Yeah, okay, I agree, Greg. I want to mandate it. But how do we make sure that it gets done? I think first and foremost, we need to sign the petition to get the evidence in front of the Supreme Court. And there's a website I want you to go to that allows you to sign the petition. It's fix2020first.com. Fix2020first.com. You go to that website, it'll have the spaces for you to enter your name, your information, and you just hit enter, and it puts you on the petition. Number 2, remember that old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Remember that? We have to contact our legislators. I think about how do we contact them? We could do that by phone, right? We could do it by email. We can go ahead and even send them a letter. We have to do all of them, not just 1 or 2 people. All of us. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So we have to do that. And then thirdly, I think we need to show up to their homes. I call it the 3-foot rule. As long as you're within 3 feet of the road of their yard, you're technically not on their property, and we're allowed to be there to protest. See, when you show masses of people showing up in front of somebody's home and they know we know what they're doing and how they're not taking into account what we want as we the people, and they're not truly representing we the people, then I think you'll see the actions taken to make sure that things get done the way we need them to get done. So we need to make sure, I call it the Tri-County Full Court Press. I think each state should put a system in place where 3 counties team up together. The larger counties could be separated on their own, but I think of like Mahoning County, Trumbull County, and Columbiana County. Between those 3 counties, you probably have right around like 600,000 to 700,000 people. And you pull the resources of those people to go to different protests, to get to these legislators' home. There's other things that we need to do too from our school board perspective, okay? But that Tri-County Full Court Press, I think, is something that we should use and put in place in order to help get these full forensic audits done in the state of Ohio, who could lead other states to do the same. Okay, so with that, anything else you could think of concerning?
I just want to make everybody think through something, and I know most of the listeners know that there was a major cheating going on, but the audit, if there's nothing to hide, why do they continue to fight the audit so heavily? If you are doing everything by the book and it's a clean election, there should be no fight back from the audits. They should openly open everything they have. And instead of, what did Greg say? They deleted a bunch of stuff before the forensic audit. Why would you do that if you have nothing to hide?
Right. I agree. That's a good point. I mean, I think of like common sense. If Biden truly wants to bring the country together and do what's right for our country, you would think, these knuckleheads, these conspiracy theorists, right, who say that this election was stolen, there's fraud, they're a bunch of knuckleheads. They don't know what they're talking about. Didn't prove it. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? If you do it and you prove that, hey, there actually was no, right, fraud. It was all on the up and up. Guess what? You were right. Now you bring everybody together. Now we know you're truly for us. But if you won't do that and you fight that, and we even have people in the Republican Party fighting that, even locally, they think it's a joke. It's not a joke, folks. It's called fraud, corruption. And if they're afraid of doing it, they're probably part of it. You with me? That's common sense.
And if it isn't stopped now, we might as well forget ever having a fair election again. It's going to be over for the U.S.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump into our Bible verse for the week. Christina?
So the Bible verse is Galatians 6:9, and it says, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." And I thought that was very appropriate for now because as we've been fighting for about a year and a half now, a lot of us, including myself, I'm growing a little weary, to be honest. And but if we do not quit, if we do continue and we do not grow weary of doing good, and what we're doing is for the good, it's for the good of this country, we will reap if we don't give up. So just take that to heart and try to remember that when you start feeling overwhelmed or tired and weary.
Very, very true. Okay, our next podcast, to give you a quick preview, we decided to ask a couple folks that are going to come in town and do a constitutional boot camp for us. It's going to be on October 16th in the morning. It's a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be over at the Republican headquarters in Boardman. The address is 8381 Market Street. They're going to come in town early, and we're going to get a chance to interview them. And these are two Marine veterans that teach in a parochial school system over in the Cincinnati area. So they're traveling almost 5 hours to come in town to do this boot camp for us. And one of the things he mentioned to me, he said, Greg, you know what? We do more in 5 hours than most schools do in 4 years.
Wow.
When it comes to learning about our Constitution. I'm telling you, we need to make sure we are fluent in what our rights are, because when we're fluent in what our rights are, then we're more apt to take the necessary actions to keep those rights.
And let's not forget, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you made me think of something. Let's not forget what our forefathers went through in order to get this Constitution written for us. And to let it just get demolished would be devastating for this country. Like Greg said, we need to know what it is and all the details in it and appreciate it and make sure that it's upheld.
Exactly. And these guys that are going to come in town early, spend the night, they're going to give us a chance to do an interview and find out a little bit more of what makes them tick and some advice that they have for us. So I think that'll be an awesome podcast. So stay tuned.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's, why don't we finish things off with the prayer, Christina?
All right. Dear Lord, as we all are getting very tired of all of the corruption and the things going on in this country, we know that you are the God that makes the impossible possible. And we all put our trust in you that you are going to let this end well and that you're going to take care of your people and that you're going to protect us. And we thank you so much for giving us America, the home of the free, to live in. And we believe in you that you love this country and that you're going to preserve this country for your people. And we just thank you for everything you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Fantastic. Hey, folks, we'll see you next time. Thanks for investing and listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.